What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode. Today we've got something a little bit different for you today. Since I've been doing this channel, I have been recording like crazy. Pretty much every tattoo I've been doing, I've been asking my clients before we sit down to do the tattoo if they mind if I would record it. Typically I say that I don't use any volume, so if we're having a conversation, so you'll notice that a lot of the videos there, you won't hear the machine running, because I'm having conversations. So, being a tattooer, you end up talking a lot to your clients, and sometimes it's quite personal information. So there's something I don't do. If perchance they do just want to have their headphones on and zone out, then that's great. I can run it and you can hear the machine work, which I think is kind of important when you're watching when you're watching a tattoo. But anyway, I digress. My point is that I have tons of footage that I wanted to share with you guys, that I was really happy with the outcome of the pieces. And it's just kind of piling up on me. And now I'm kind of getting overwhelmed because I'm like, I've got all these tattoos I haven't even edited. So today what I'm doing is I think we're going to just throw a bunch of tattoos in the same video. I think we're going to do 3 or 4 in this video. I can't remember how many it is now. But we're going to do a few videos all bound together. And I'm going to do voiceovers over the whole lot, explaining what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and just different experiences I've had and some tips. So maybe you'll learn something, maybe you won't. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to jump straight into the first tattoo. The first one is a really cool one. It's a back piece. So yeah, let's just jump straight in. All right, guys, obviously starting off here with a stencil. This was a pretty easy stencil to put on because we were actually leaving out a bunch of the original line work that frames this off. Once it's all done, there's going to be a row of flames all the way around. This is going to be a black and grey piece. This is one of my favorite clients. I have a few favorite clients, so don't be upset if... but this girl, she's so awesome. I've been tattooing her now for, I don't know, it feels like over 10 years now. I'm not even sure. But her and her boyfriend, or now husband, have been coming to me for gotta be over 10 years now. Really amazing couple. I've done probably 90% of the work on this girl. And I think the only other person that's tattooed her was my apprentice. Anyway, she always comes up with super awesome design ideas, and this was not a disappointment. So essentially, barbarian girl with fantasy dragon, very much like a 70s, 80s, 90s vibe. Super cool, super cool. As you can see, it's gone down really nice there. Really happy with the way that turned out. And a bonus thing is that this girl sits like a trooper. This was literally one of the easiest back pieces I've lined in a long time. Not to badmouth anyone else that I've tattooed their backs. I'm very lucky with my clients. They do sit very well. But particularly this one was a very fun and very easy one to do. I think that, if I remember correctly, I was lining this with a, it would have been the loose 11 mag. No, sorry, typo. Loose 11 round shader. Not lining with a mag, no. So yeah, loose 11 round shader. And again, using my workhorse, using the version 3 Dan Cuban Sidewinder. Absolutely love that machine. And the reason I love that machine so much, I didn't use it for the longest time because it spit like crazy. But I actually used the tensioner. And oh my God, that tensioner makes the world of difference. So yeah, very cool. Sure. Got we finish this claw here, and then we'll be in a good spot for a break. Actually want to make sure the sword is straight, because sometimes when you lie down it distorts the lines, and you got to trust that the stencil's right. But I want you to stand up and just double check that sword's not wonky anyway. So we do not. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is straight, but I forgot to check when we put the stencil on. So. Okay, and here we are, the finished piece. Probably took us a couple hours to do this. Again, sat amazingly, really fun piece to line. Had a lot of fun with this. I very, very rarely do fantasy dragons, but this one killed it, love it. Can't wait to get this shaded and get the rest of the lines done. All right, next up we've got the Spiderweb elbow. I do tons and tons and tons of spiderwebs on elbows. I love them. I think they look great. Super classic tattoo. I think everyone should have one. I think that people gravitate towards me doing them is because I work very fast and nobody wants to sit getting their elbow tattooed for 3+ hours. So we can normally knock these out, this sort of size, normally knock this out in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending. But yeah, it's just a matter of rinse and repeat, really. Elbows and knees are both very hard to stretch. The skin on anyone's elbow is particularly stretchy. And on top of that, they're very grainy skin on elbows and knees. Typically, I recommend if you're going to get your elbow tattooed, that you start moisturizing ASAP. Get that moisturizer in there daily on the elbow. Get that elbow nice and moisturized. And that's like a long-term thing. Everyone should be using moisturizer anyway. I know women do more than men, but get that elbow and knees, get them nice and moisturized if you want to get them tattooed, because it will make it a hell of a lot easier to tattoo. It'll be a hell of a lot less painful, and it's going to heal a ton better. So yeah, typically I start from one side and I just kind of go all the way around and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. Yeah, it's a kind of a slow process. Very tricky to get straight lines done on a wonky, stretchy elbow, but it's not my first rodeo, and we got this one knocked out pretty quick and pretty painless. This is a really cool guy. He's got a ton of really nice, bold, just black, traditional stuff. You can kind of see there, I've done like there's like a dragon, he's got a butterfly, rose, swallow, real classic, bold stuff. So this really fit in nicely. You'll notice that I don't think you really see it in this shot now because my hand's in the way. But I actually did leave out like a small segment of the spider web. I think it bumped up against the dragon there. So sometimes I'll leave like a little pizza slice out of like a section of the spider web. And often I really think that like actually does look kind of nice. I don't like tattoos touching one another. I like good spacing. We don't want it to be too tight, but we don't want massive gaps that leave you with awkward spaces that you've got to fill later on. So planning ahead is key. If it was up to me, any sleeve that I'm starting, I would absolutely start with the elbow, because we know what's going to go on the elbow. We know about the size. Most elbows are about the same size as far as design goes, and it really kind of gives you space to work off that elbow. And here you can see the end product all shaded up, just pretty straightforward, nice and black and simple and awesome. Everybody loves a spider web. Okay, here we have a nice classic looking rose with a sickle going through it. This was actually off a flash sheet that I did for my Halloween customer appreciation. A couple of times a year, I like to kind of give back to my regulars. This is just for people that have been tattooed by me in the past. And I just have a page of flash that I've drawn up, and then I have my regulars come through and they can pick something off the sheet and they get it for a little bit of a discounted price. So this was a real fun one. I was really hoping that someone would get this one. Very simple, but very bold, cool design. This is a really cool guy. I've done a few pieces on him before. A couple of like color pieces on his legs. So yeah, sat really well. And I love tattooing a forearm. Forearm is just got to be one of the easiest places to tattoo. It was the first place I got tattooed. I don't think it's a really tender area in particular. Maybe the ditch area kind of sucks and down by the wrist, but this whole area here really was a pretty easygoing area. We were able to knock this one out pretty quick. Again, workhorse style. I'm using the same machine I always use or I have been using for the past few months, the Dan Cuban Sidewinder 3 with that tensioner. And that tensioner, like I said, is absolutely amazing. If you have a Sidewinder, you are doing yourself a disservice if you are not using the chain tensioner. Sorry, that's bike talk. Needle tensioner. There we go. So yeah, knocking out the line work pretty quick here. Went down really nice. All right, we've got the outline done, or have we? Yep, we're still fettling a few lines. That's what I typically like to do is get the most of the line work done, just kind of go through it, then give it a good wipe down, and then just kind of go through and just make sure all the lines are looking sharp, make sure there's no tracking, make sure everything, all the points are touching, just kind of really dial it in at the end there. And sometimes I'll even use the liner. Well, I am using, it's actually, technically it's a shader. I'm using those loose 11 shaders. I'll go in there at the end and I can start shading in some of the real tight areas. And then I bust out my mag. I'm using a 9 curved mag on this one. Again, it's another Dan Cuban, the Mojo box. Absolutely killer shader. Literally the only shader I've used in the last probably 2 years. Absolutely love this thing. Going to have to get another one in case this one breaks for some reason. I don't know what I'll do if this machine breaks, but I highly recommend the Mojo box. So obviously starting with the black, giving it a nice little bit of whippy shade before we start pouring out the color. And as you know, I like to use very vintagey style. My palette's normally very similar from tattoo to tattoo. But you'll notice on this arm, it is quite olivey skin tones. So we do have to be careful with certain colors that we use. But I've done a bunch of color on this guy before and he always heals up really nice. Sometimes when you've got like a bit of a darker complexion, it can definitely dull down the colors a little bit. Don't really have too much of a problem with that on this arm, on this client. But you can definitely see in some cases that it is a little bit duller than on sort of paler skin. So that's definitely something to consider when you're working on different skin tones. But yeah, here we're using an olive green. I believe it's the Mike Chambers green from Eternal Ink Collection. I forget what the actual name is. And then Mississippi Mud brown. Love that brown. It's holds up really well. I find a lot of browns fade real quick, but that one's really great. And that's a Pan's Grey. I think that's what that one is called. Regardless, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but the grey's really nice. I love using grey as if there's an area where like, I don't know what color to do this. Grey's normally a great color because it fills the area and it's not too obnoxious. It doesn't take over the design too much. It's just a nice kind of background, not in your face color. And of course, one of my favorite colors I use, the light red. It really is kind of holds that vintagey orange red, which I always go on about. Love it. I've had 0 reactions. Anyone who knows about tattoo ink knows that red ink can be a pain, can heal badly, can scar. Some people don't heal well with it, but I have never had any issues at all with this red. Highly recommend this one. So yeah, this tattoo, I was really happy with the way this tattoo came out. This is just me in my element here. Nice forearm tattoo that I'm familiar with. Drew it a few times already and just really enjoyed this one. I like doing red tips on if I'm doing a red rose, I like doing red tips on the leaves. It just kind of ties the leaves and the rose together. So yeah, really happy with the way this one turned out. We'll get it wiped up and get a nice look at it when it's done. Oh, a little bit of blue there. That's right. Forgot I did the blue. Nice bit of blue there to give a bit of contrast against that blue. And there we are. Give it a nice clean up and we'll take a look at it. Super stoked on this one. Very clean, very fun tattoo to do. Okay, and the final tattoo for the video. This was a really awesome one. Really stoked with the way this one turned out. Tattooing this guy for a while now. Super cool dude. He always throws me like completely wild designs, and I feel like I always say to him, "Oh, I don't know, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work." 9 times out of 10, we've made it work. But this is one of those designs. It was based off the classic tattoo that you've probably seen a million times, the handshake with a snake. So this is kind of like a bite the hands that feeds you type of thing. It was kind of hard to get the right angle for the design for this one. I didn't want to make the hand look too small against the giant wolf head. Trying to get the right angle so it didn't look like the hand had been mangled. But anyway, eventually, after about 10 different drawings, we came up with something that I really liked. And yeah, very stoked on the way this design came out. And then another forearm piece. Very lucky to be doing these super cool, bold traditional pieces on forearms. I love to tattoo a forearm. And we got this lined out pretty quick. Super rad guy. We always like having a good chat with this dude. But yeah, using the Sidewinder as usual and the loose 11 round shades, just my go-to really for this scale and size of piece, and using the sweet tips from Dan Cuban. I feel like a Dan Cuban fanboy. Everything I'm using, the Mojo box, the Sidewinder, the sweet tips. But the truth is that he just makes a really, really good product. I do have a drawer full of other machines, but at the moment, those just aren't really in rotation. I'm just kind of happy using these Dan Cuban stuff. So yeah, very happy with the way that his stuff works. All right, so here you can see we start the shading. Again, Mojo box. And Allegory Black. It's been my go-to ink for the last, I don't know, man, almost 10 years. It's a really, really good black. I use it for lining and shading. My black always heals really, really nice. It's something I'm very confident in. I grew up in England. When I first started tattooing in the early O's, everybody was getting tribal. So I got really good at putting solid, good black in. And back in the day, we used to boil down Talons and Pelican ink and all kinds of stuff like that, but which was really hard to put in the skin. But now we're really lucky with all the technologies we have now with the black ink. It is really, really good. I do have a good friend of mine who is starting a black ink company. More information of that coming soon. That's something that I have sampled and I'm very keen on it. So that'll be something that I'll be introducing into my tattoos soon. But we'll talk about that in another time. That's kind of top secret information. Anyway, so yeah, I had a lot of fun shading this one in. I love tattooing walls. I've been tattooing walls for like so long. And it got to the point when I would do flash sheets, like when I do the customer appreciation flash sheets, I had to stop putting wolves on the flash sheets because that's all I would end up doing. Nobody would get any of the other designs. It would just be wolves, 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 and wolves. Like I've literally done more wolves than I've had hot meals. But I love doing them. I love the way they look. I think it's like a super badass design and just love the way they always turn out. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I know we can't really see much of what's going on here. Again, that autofocus. Since this has been recorded, I have actually I think I figured out the autofocus. I've kind of set up as like a manual focus, so I pick a spot and kind of leave it like that. So moving forward, we should have better focuses. I know this is really frustrating, super frustrating for me because I wanted to keep all this in. Yeah, I see like a close up of my earlobe right there. That's useful. Thanks so much, camera. So over the years, I've definitely cut back on the amount of black that I use. I used to be like maximum black. And actually, one of my best friends came over and stayed with me recently, and I did a wolf on the side of his knee, and we must have done that about 15 years ago. And that was back in the day when I was like, black, maximum black. And I look at it now, and it's basically just a silhouette. So yeah, let's just say that maximum black isn't always the best way to go. This is the benefit of having been a tattooer for so long, that you can see what your tattoos look like when they're 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old. There's tattoos that I see that I've tattooed, they're almost 25 years old at this point. So you can definitely learn a lot about the longevity of tattooing. So yeah, that's definitely something which I now allow my tattoos to breathe a lot more. I think that negative space is just as important as the positive space. Certainly makes the tattoo more readable and, like we said, stand the test of time, which is really what we want. We want our tattoos to look as cool as they do on day one as year 20. And I feel like this tattoo will certainly hold up really well. I definitely see like lighter colors fading, as in like 10, 20 years down the line. But as far as making the tattoo readable line work, certainly kind of dialed that in with the experience that I have at this point. Kind of coming to the end of this tattoo now. I really love the way this tattoo came out. I like the contrast between the darkness of the wolf and the light of the hand. But we got a bit of shadowing on the hand down there by the wrist. It kind of gives that three-dimensional kind of feel. Traditional tattoos are, very flat, but you can certainly give them some dimension. And here we go, the finished piece. Really happy with the way this turned out. Absolutely love it. It's very cool design and a great placement as well. Looking forward to getting some healed shots of this one. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this video up for now. Appreciate it if you got this far. I know it was a very long video. If you made it this far, then please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this video. Let me know if it was long and boring or you thought it was good, you got some information out of it. I would really, really appreciate some feedback. I don't know if this is something I want to do again, just throwing a bunch of tattoos in one video, or you prefer just having focus on one design. So let me know what you think. Coming up in a very episode coming soon, we're going to be working on the Fantasy Dragon Barbarian Girl back piece. So I'm super stoked on that one. Stay tuned for that. We also have another 2 back pieces coming up really, really soon before the Barbarian one. So lots of back pieces to come, lots of small bangers. So just stay tuned. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more of these. Like, comment, all that stuff. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support, and I hope you guys have a great week. Peace.